Hey everybody, in this video we're going to be talking about Stephen King's 2013 novel, Dr. Sleep. We'll be showing you the points to look for when trying to identify first US and first UK editions, as well as share some thoughts on the work itself. The first US edition, of course, was published by Scribner, no surprise there, has this really cool and evocative artwork on the jacket. Of course, the back features the throwback artwork to The Shining. Major spoiler alert, if you weren't already aware, I don't see how you couldn't have been aware, but Dr. Sleep is the sequel to The Shining. And if you've been watching enough of my ranking videos, you have a pretty good idea that The Shining is my very favorite Stephen King novel of all time. But I digress. Inside the jacket, the flap, look for a price of US $30 right there. Canadian, always a little bit more in Canada, always a little harder to collect these things in Canada, north of the border. On the copyright page, look for the classic number line that includes the number 1. So look for the price jacket and the number line, and that's how you know you have a first edition, first printing. If you have a book with the number line and no price on the jacket, chances are it's some kind of book club edition, or at least a first edition book in a book club jacket. So underneath the jacket, there's these red boards with black over the spine, silver lettering. Pretty straightforward. But anyway, that is the first US trade hardcover edition of Dr. Sleep. Now I'm going to pass it over to my friend and associate Noah to show the first UK trade edition hardcover.
So next up is Dr. Sleep. This is the British first edition, British trade edition of the book. It has a printed price on the jacket of $19.99 UK. It's hotter, so you got these plain black cloth boards that they use. However, this one does have pretty nice sky blue end papers, which I dig. And I want to say it's just a 1, yep, just a number 1 to indicate first printing there. Not much else to say about it, but that's the British first of Dr. Sleep.
And now a word about our sponsor.
Special shout out to brand new channel sponsor, StephenKingCollector.com. If you haven't been to that website in a while, you really need to go check it out. Thomas, the founder, owner, operator, basically one-man operation behind The Collector, is one of the original, the OG Stephen King collecting experts. And he does a lot of work all the time for the benefit of people like you, people like me, people in the Stephen King collecting community. I have referenced his website, information I've gotten from his website from my videos. My videos would not be what they are without the support and resources that I have gained from the SK Collector website. So what I'm going to do over the next several months is I'm going to take turns, probably one thing per month, and I'm going to highlight an aspect of the website that you may not be familiar with. What I'm going to talk about first are the tabs for buying books. So Thomas periodically has book sales, but what he does on a regular basis through his website is direct people toward other websites, online booksellers generally, where they can find some of these really rare and really beautiful books. So my channel shows them. If you've ever seen something where you're like, oh, I wish I could have that on my shelf, go to skcollector.com, click the links, which I will show a picture of here on the website. If you're interested in a US limited edition, you can click the US tab, go in, look for the title that you're interested in, click it, and within that page, there will be very recent current links to websites where you can actually buy these materials. It's fascinating, even if you don't end up buying anything, just to check and keep tabs on what the collecting market looks like. But it can be very daunting to know where to start. Thomas has your back. Thomas is scouring the internet every single month and updating these links and updating them on his website. I'm going to put the links to the collector website. It's already on my channel. I'm going to put the link in the description to this video, as well as the link to the Buy US Limiteds, Buy UK Limiteds. I highly encourage you to check it out. He makes the needle in the haystack aspect of Stephen King collecting much more manageable, much more manageable. He is an invaluable resource to the Stephen King collecting community, and he is also now a sponsor of this YouTube channel. So thank you very much, Thomas, and back to our regularly scheduled programming. So I can recall sometime in the early 2010s, Stephen King did a survey. There was a poll. I don't remember exactly where it was, on his website, on social media, perhaps, where he asked readers. He said he had two ideas, and one was a new Dark Tower book, and one was Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining. And he asked readers which one he should write first. And the vote was almost split down the middle. And he went ahead and published Dark Tower 4.5, The Wind Through the Keyhole, first. I have a feeling, and I had a feeling at that time, he was probably working on both simultaneously, or they may have even been completed when he did the survey and the poll. But anyway, Wind Through the Keyhole comes out first, 2012. 2013, Dr. Sleep. And this is a very special kind of personal connection one for me, because, like I said, The Shining is my number one. I don't think I've done an overall ranking all the books yet, but spoiler alert, The Shining is my number one favorite Stephen King book of all time. So I was overjoyed, ecstatic, I was thrilled, I was very, very curious, and I was also more than a little terrified, because not only is it one of my favorite Stephen King books, it is a lot of people's favorite Stephen King books. It had a very famous movie, and then not quite as famous, but a very well-known TV adaptation. It's a big deal. It's one of Stephen King's biggest novels of all time. So this could either go really, really well, or it could go really, really, really badly. But thankfully, I listened, I think it was on a road trip a few years back, and I listened to the audiobook, and I was enthralled and I was overjoyed. The story, the novel, takes place with Danny, the young boy from The Shining, now an adult, and making do, outracing his demons, and using his special power for to provide comfort and peace. And it's actually kind of beautiful, the way that has progressed. But he's also running from a lot of demons simultaneously. And one of the amazing things that Dr. Sleep does that's so gratifying to the fans is it goes back and it fills in the gaps. So, like, the devastation that happened to the Torrance family, Wendy and Danny, at the end of The Shining, there is a ray of hope at the end of The Shining, but then a big question mark over what comes next. How do these two people possibly overcome this devastation that has befallen their lives? Well, Dr. Sleep takes us back and kind of fills in those gaps. And it's very, very moving, and it's very, very interesting to find out what happened to Danny in the in-between times. Well, fast forward to today, or 10 years ago, 2013, and Danny is an adult and he's an alcoholic. Like I said, he's running from some demons, and he gets involved with a whole new adventure with a whole new, very, very, very sinister and diabolical, but also somehow funny and almost endearing cast of villains, and one very, very, very special young person who has The Shining. Gosh, all the spoilers, but has The Shining, and to the extent that Danny just, he can't believe how strong the shine is in this young girl. And the villains just happen to be, oh gosh, how to describe it? Some kind of life force, essence, psychic vampires who live on the life force, basically, of people like Danny, of people like Abra, the young woman. And once they realize that Abra is out there and they get a feel for the depth and breadth of her power, she suddenly becomes the prized possession, and the chase is on. And it's fascinating, and it's nail biting, and it's very, very scary. Doctor Sleep contains some very beautiful, some very poignant scenes. It also contains one of Stephen King's almost unbearably uncomfortable, brutal, heartless scenes of all time, and it involves the gang of villains, the True Knot, and a particular young baseball player. So if you've read the novel, you know the scene I'm talking about. It was just brutal, brutal, and almost unbearable. But because it's Stephen King, it's written in a way that keeps you reading, keeps you listening, because you just have to know what happens next. So the chase is on, and Danny and Abra, long story short, they end up back in Colorado. They end up back at the site of the Overlook Hotel. And because what better sort of focal point for psychic energy than that site? And there's just some tremendous amounts of just throwback and fan service and just closure, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So The Shining and Doctor Sleep definitely have pride of place in my collection. And I think if Doctor Sleep had been just a very, very stinky, terrible book and just a complete misfire that Stephen King should never have undertaken in the first place, it probably wouldn't have harmed the reputation of The Shining, but it may have dimmed it a little. But because to me it's so masterful, and it's so powerful, and it connects and it closes doors, and it just wraps things up so beautifully, it actually makes the impact of The Shining even greater. So I don't know how much more praise I could give a book than to say it made me love my favorite Stephen King book even more. So that is and it's still such a tremendous risk that Stephen King took. So, and it's rare in his bibliography, a story here, a story there that maybe ties in. And just in the new collection, You Like It Darker, there's Rattlesnakes, which serves as both a summary story to kind of Cujo and Duma-Key, which I thought was really fascinating. But it's like 100 pages. It's a story. It's a novella at best, but to take the time and put in the time and the energy and the effort to create a novel sequel to perhaps his most famous of all time, just a tremendous risk. And it got me thinking, what other novels would benefit from a sequel? I'd love to hear your take on that. So sound off in the comments. Let me know, which Stephen King novel would you love there to be a sequel to, and why do you feel that way? If Doctor Sleep is the sequel to The Shining, what other, any, could be classic, could be more recent, what other novel would you hope Stephen King may revisit someday and provide us another chapter to? I think for me, the first one that comes to mind is probably Firestarter, because I think Firestarter has a bit of, it doesn't have a great ending. Stephen King isn't known for his endings, but Firestarter, it just kind of like zip, 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 and then it's over. And it took me a minute, and I was like, wait, what? What even was that? What did I just read? What the heck is going on? I've come to terms with it. I think it's a fine ending, but it leaves things kind of loose. I'd love to know where Charlie McGee is now and what she may be doing, or if the world even still exists. Because it's referenced in Firestarter that if she wanted to, Charlie could like literally blow up the earth. So maybe that would be a very, very short story indeed. The sequel to Firestarter, Charlie got really pissed and she blew up the earth. The end. Are you happy now? I shouldn't have written the sequel. I knew it would be disappointing to people, but I'm sure in Stephen King's hands, if the inspiration struck, that it would be a worthy sequel. But what book do you most wish in your wildest dreams? What book would you most like to see a sequel to? Let me know in the comments. Thanks again to my new sponsor, Thomas at SK Collector. Look for the links to all the stuff we talked about in the description to the video. Thanks as always to my friend Noah, my collaborator and co-conspirator with the most amazing Stephen King collection. Well, definitely one of the most amazing Stephen King collections that I've ever seen or heard of in video and pictures. There are probably others out there that are more comprehensive, but I kind of like Noah's approach and his philosophy to collecting the most. So I think I give him the edge, but maybe I'm biased. I might be biased, but that does not mean I'm wrong. Anyway, thank you to you for viewing, for subscribing, for supporting the channel. Check out the membership opportunities for some cool perks, early access to videos, some custom stickers and tags and all of that stuff. And let me know if you have any questions about that. I'm sort of new to it, but I'm getting the hang of it, and it's kind of a lot of fun. So anyway, thank you again, and until next time, I hope you take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you later. Bye.